All right, I think that happens to have done the trick. Hello, everybody. And how are you doing? It is absolutely marvelous to be with you all today. I have just been figuring out a couple of audio things on my side. It looks like we are now 100% ready to go. And welcome one and all to honestly one of my favorite workshops, mainly because I am a horrible AWS shill. I've been using AWS stuff for like nigh on at least 2 or 3 years now, and I love the product. I am really happy to be running you guys through setting ourselves up a full stack web app on Amazon Web Services. So let me know, how are y'all doing? I am very excited to be here, but how are y'all? What's going on in chat? What's the vibe today for it? I want to know what's going on right down in the trenches, because I've been sort of in terms of I've got there's some fun spoilers. You'll all find. All right, awesome. There we go. You know, the absolute irony of me saying, you know what, I've just got to fix all the audio issues, and then I immediately have my microphone drivers just decide to have a little bit of a moment. But we are looking a heck of a lot better now. Is everybody hearing me 5 by 5? I very much hope you are. Drop something in the chat if you happen to be able to hear me. And once I've confirmed that, then we will roll on to taking a quick look at how to get yourselves up and running with AWS. Have a little bit of a chat about init stuff. I've got some fun things cooking for y'all very, very soon. And do make sure that if you are here for this event, which I'm sure all of you very much are having a heck of a fun time right down in chat, make sure that you head on over to here and join in with, words. I'm having a bad day with words. Head on over to hackpack/hackwithjohn and check in for the event. That will make sure that you get yourself all of those lovely init points that I know that people are absolutely losing their mind over at the moment. And do make sure that on that basis, you don't disappear anything. I'm really having a bad day with words. You ever have one of those days where you're just sort of like kind of a bit all over the place, and just kind of chilling. That's basically me today. I'm having a good time. So if you head on over to the link down below, you will get yourselves, among other things, you should get yourselves setup instructions, the code samples, possibly an invite to the MLH Slack. I don't know if we're doing that for this one. I imagine we may well be. You'll also find the workshop FAQ, some slides, which we're going to be following, which we're going to be following along with here as we go. And we are going to be following along with that particular setup. All right, I think after having quietly wrangled my way through AWS, that we are looking pretty much good to go. So, hello y'all. How are we doing? I am very excited. I want to sleep. Oh boy, you would not believe the amount of people that I know who've just been doing awful sleep schedules recently. Like absolutely awful. I really do not recommend it. That will hurt you later. That's all I'm saying. Don't push yourself too hard. It's always better to do less and then like end up with a better project than to try and do more and then end up with less of a project. Would be the best way to put it. All right then, let's roll ourselves up. So we are going to be what are we after? We're after this. We are indeed after this. So let us build and deploy a full stack web app with AWS. Testing. I think we might be back. We are back. Good Lord, I am having a fun day with audio. Everything is really turning up trumps today. All right then, let's get on with this. So, step one, you are going to be heading on over and signing up to your own Wi-Fi network, because unfortunately here at INIT we do not provide you with Wi-Fi that works across everything. You are limited pretty exclusively to what you have going with you at the time. Apparently ScreenShare has also decided that it would like to just not today, which I love immensely. Yeah, make sure that you're signed into the internet. If you're not signed into the internet, then I have no idea how you're viewing this stream. Please go and undo your black magic, and then we will be able to continue. So, hi, I'm John. I am here to run this with y'all today. Oh boy. Is that showing up like it's sort of like... I'm trying to figure out whether this is something that I can see on my side or whether you're also seeing like the screen has decided to just show half of it for some reason. That's a real look. Oh my god. All right, let us go for a third run. Are there any prerequisites? No, we are going to run through everything as we go. Let's see if capturing that is going to work any better. That's going to work way better. That is going to work 100% better. That is absolutely rolling. All right. Not having a bad day, my Wi-Fi is. Tricks for you. I'm not on Wi-Fi. I am plugged directly in over the world's chunkiest Ethernet. I'm just having some fun with StreamYard. In terms of prerequisites, don't worry about any of that. We are going to run through pretty much everything from like straight basics all the way through to the good stuff. And there ain't going to be too much going on there. So, I want to know a little bit about y'all. because I am more than happy to ramble on about myself for hundreds of hours, boring you all to absolute death in the meantime. But you guys are the stars of the show today. And so I want to know precisely what it is that you're like. So let's start with like favorite programming language. I enjoy this. Because this always ends up being a question where people have incredibly, like, how do I put it? They have incredibly, like, contentious opinions on this. I know people who have, like, I've had to, like, almost practically, like, break up fights between, like, Python and Java people, especially. Those guys tend to just really have a like, vendetta out for each other. But yeah, drop in chat. What is your favorite programming language? It's the second best avatar I've seen after Mary's. Yeah, it's really like I know at least two people who have said that like avatar-wise. Hang on, let me try and get the angle on this. Yeah, it's like it's pretty on point. Like they nailed pretty much everything. The only difference at the moment is that I am being very lazy and I have not like I do not have my beard currently Van Dyked as it is in the photo. But otherwise, it's pretty on point. They got the hair swoosh. I like that. You gotta have a good swoosh. Ain't no fun if you haven't got the volume in it. What are we looking at? Okay, Java people, awesome. I love some Java. Java was actually my first programming language, funnily enough. I say first programming language. It was the first language that I really learned properly. I learned a fair bit of like a very small amount of Ruby, like way back when. And then the first language that I really properly picked up was Java, funnily enough, because I started programming by building Minecraft mods. So that was my like starting point with all of this. I was like, I want to go and like add a kangaroo to Minecraft, and then like 5.5 hours later, I have not made a kangaroo. The game has crashed, and I've got like null pointer exceptions just everywhere. But it was a heck of a learning experience. Something that I would say for like learning stuff is it's really awesome if you like make sure to like always, if you're going to learn something, pick a like target project that you want to build with it, right? Like whenever I learn a language, or like especially if I'm doing stuff with like hardware as well, it's like let's think of an idea that we can build, and then we use like whatever tools we're trying to learn to get to that point, right? Yeah, programming languages are tools. Yeah, precisely. But I'd say also like it's not always a bad thing to like occasionally like even if you know that certain languages work great for certain things, like it's always worth experimenting occasionally. Like try I don't know, like try doing like if you normally do like web apps in Python, try and do like web apps in Go maybe. Maybe if you do like games usually in Java, maybe try doing your like games in Python and see how it pans out. There's always options. It always keeps things fun. Java's very good for first programming language. Yeah, I credit a lot of my ability to learn other languages off of like how much object-oriented stuff I learned from Java like way back in the day. It's a good stuff. Awesome. All right. There is a whole ton of different languages. I'm seeing a lot of Python people, a couple of HTML people. The one poor C++ person in the middle of this. I am so sorry. As a long-suffering C++ developer myself, although I write a lot more embedded C than I do C++. But yeah. Welcome. If you are here, it is likely that you are already at least tangentially familiar with Major League Hacking, but I am going to give you the run-through anyway. We are the global hacker community, and our mission is to empower hackers. We've got a ton of y'all. We have like over 65,000. I have no idea what the current number is, but it's like chonky. Like over 12,000 projects. I'm sure that number basically just like goes up at least in the double digits by the day, and over 400 cities. And I imagine over, at the moment, if I'm looking at the numbers correctly, over 60 bedrooms or offices or wherever you happen to be chilling out doing fun local hosty stuff. And we have been joined by a shark. Should we also get joined by a shark? That is a good question. I think we should get joined by a shark. for there is nothing that brings me more joy than introducing you all to the rarest stuffed shark in the world. It is Smallhage. I honestly, this is the most adorable thing ever. It's just like, it's Smallhage. Ooh, where's he? Where's he done? It's Smallhage. Yeah, this is my baby. I'm going to try and pop them up on my shoulder so that we can have this joyous experience for the next period of time. If he falls off, that is just going to be the way that things are. But otherwise, we are just going to be dealing with Smallhage corner perching, at least for now. There we go. There's Smallhage. We love us a good Smallhage. I love this. I love this immensely. This is a great experience. If there are going to likely be instances within this where I keep having to disappear briefly and kill my audio drivers, because apparently they've decided that they're just not going to even function today. Which is always a fun time. We love ourselves a good technical difficulty, especially when we're in the middle of a workshop and trying to get everything set up. Okay then, so what are we looking at? Well, we have all of these awesome people. We have a shark in chat, everything's going well. We have a shark on my shoulder, which is arguably even better. All right, so as I said before, oh boy, I can't believe I balanced him while doing that. If you head on over to hackpack.ac/hackwithjohn, and make sure that you check in for the event, you will find all kinds of awesome, fun things going on. It is going to be a good time. What are we going to do? Well, firstly, I'm going to say, hey, cool, congratulations, you're on a local host workshop. We're going to be doing all kinds of fun AWS stuff. You'll get the gist. There's a shark. It's awesome. Next step, what are we going to learn? Well, we are going to... I can tell you precisely what we're going to do. We are going to kill the audio driver again. And then we are going to build ourselves a full stack web app with Flask, which is my favorite Python web framework. If you have alternative favorite Python web frameworks and you are comfortable with those, then feel free to do your own thing. But we are going to be doing fun Flask stuff today. But yeah, the link, if you need it, is scrolling along at the bottom of the screen. You will always be able to find that. I'm going to keep it up the entire time, so if you happen to need to check in at any point, head on and type in hackp.ac/hackwithjohn. Step 2, once we've got ourselves our full stack web app. Hang on, I need to like... Come on, baby. Come on, baby. There we go. That's it. After we have, after we've got our Flask app up, we are going to be heading on over and configuring ourselves a lovely MariaDB database, which is something that we all absolutely love, I'm sure. And then once we've gotten ourselves some lovely Flask and some lovely SQL goodness, we are going to head on over and get our app deploying using Elastic Beanstalk, using the AWS CLI, which is going to be awesome. So let's talk about the difference between websites and web apps. So websites, generally, they display information to their users. And as a general rule, they are going to be... so as a general rule, websites display information to users. Web applications are dynamic, right? So a website, in a general rule, is like a static site, whereas a web application is something where your content changes, you have like multiple views, all of that jazz, right? Also, we are going to do a drinks check because I am absolutely parched right now. All right then. All right, then off we go. So, yeah, we are going to be making ourselves a web app using Flask. We are then subsequently going to be getting it running with some data stuff on MariaDB. And then we are going to be heading on over and deploying that on AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So, all right. So, what does full stack mean? This is a question that gets thrown around a lot. You'll hear a lot of people talking about like full stack developers. The front end and back end are like two different halves of that stack. So you may see job postings for like front end, back end, or like full stack engineers. The front end is usually like the user interface side, what the user will see on the screen. And the back end is usually, I will drop the volume of the background audio just a little. All right, we have our front end, which is our user interface, what everybody sees, how all of that jazz goes. And our backend, which is then basically everything that happens. So we've got like database storage, any sort of like logic operations. Very glad that music is a little bit better. That sort of operations. And outside of that, we are also going to be hopefully doing some fun like CRUD operations, like create, reads, updates, deletes, that sort of stuff. Basically, anything where your application like actually does things as opposed to just like showing things is usually your backend. Well, the session mascot, is Small Harsh, obviously. Why would you not want such a beautiful tiny shark? Yeah. So, what is AWS? Well, AWS, also known as Amazon Web Services, is a cloud hosting provider. So what they do is they basically provide a whole ton of services. Oh, season mascot. Oh no. That's a spoiler. Unfortunately, you are not going to trick me into revealing what our season mascot is. Our session mascot is Small Harsh. Our season mascot is secret, but is most definitely being revealed very, very, very soon. You are going to want to keep an eye out on Swift's keynote. I believe, for that one, most definitely. So, AWS. AWS is a collection of cloud computing services, and these are things like, for example, like web hosting, like load balancing, DNS, all kinds of fun, like distributed computing jazz, storage, all of that kind of stuff. And it basically means that instead of you having to disappear off and set up a billion services on your own systems, you get to go off and just basically go to AWS, log in, say, I want a load balancer. And then you just press a button and you get yourself a load balancer and everything is hunky-dory. It takes away like a ton of the like extra heft that you need to like do all of the like setup for like certain services. And it's just overall like a really nice way to like quickly like host and manage stuff in when it comes like getting applications like running on the open internet. It is used by a whole ton of people, big names. Amazon, who own Twitch, also run most of Twitch on AWS. NASA, Netflix, even Google, I think, have some stuff on AWS, which is hilarious on the basis of the fact that they also have their own cloud. But yeah, so we are going to be making ourselves a seafood finder, in which we shall find the food of the sea, namely fish. So we're going to be looking for the Yelp API, and then we're going to be using that to search our way through a whole ton of various seafood places. And then we're going to host all of this on AWS, which means that everyone else is going to be able to come along and they're going to be able to access all of this online. So, step one. Let's set ourselves up our dev environment. So we are not going to just jump into this straight blind. We are going to want to make sure that we have a whole, well, not a whole bunch of stuff, but my microphone has become unclipped. Not a whole bunch of stuff, but like a good, like a couple of things that are going to be like fairly critical for what we're going to be doing here. So, okay, let's talk about environments quickly. Development versus production. So we're going to be working on a development environment, which is going to be the environment on our system. And that's going to be connected into a local database, which basically means that we can write code and do all kinds of fun stuff without actually affecting our like real data, as it were. And generally, if you're working in your local environment, then you will refer to it as your local environment. You can also sometimes hear it referred to as your development environment, but that's generally you will generally hear it referred to as your local environment or your development environment. That's the general approach. As a general rule, it's usually a great way to like start doing stuff because you can sort of do a whole ton of like local testing without actually having to affect your production app before you end up getting your app into production, which can be great. And every time we talk about making the project live, we're talking about putting it into the production environment, which basically means that at that point, everyone can access it. Once you're in production, if you put stuff that's bugs in production, everyone else is going to find it, which is why we usually try and nab that first. Because the alternative is that we get a whole ton of stuff. Hello there. If you are late, do not worry. Do not worry at all. You are definitely not too late to jump in on this one. We are still very much explaining stuff. You are going to want to jump onto the link at the bottom at hackp.ac/hackwithjohn. And then you are going to want to just follow along with what we're doing. At the moment, we are just setting everything up so that we basically just giving everyone a general view of what we're going to be doing. We've talked a little bit about development versus production environments. We've talked a little bit about AWS and like cloud providers. And the plan is that we are going to build ourselves an app that can find us local seafood, and then we are going to host that app on Amazon Web Services, and it is going to be a lovely time. So let's talk about development lifecycle. So development lifecycle usually includes another step. Usually you'll hear like developments, like either like staging or like sometimes it's referred to as like a test environment. So you end up with like basically what you want is like an environment that is close enough to your production environment that you can use it, but not so close that it's like way out of kilter. Like you want something that's relatively like similar. So we're not going to be making a staging environment in this instance, but as a general rule, if you're usually going to be doing stuff in like mainstay, you're going to want to like you're going to want to set things up on that basis. But yeah, so we are going to be using today. We're going to be using VS Code. I am probably going to be using, well, I'll use VS Code for the purposes of this, but my usual favorite is Sublime Text. Staging environment is in Git. No, staging environment as in a complete replica of your production environment. A staging environment usually is an environment that you deploy your entire application into that is functionally the same, but like logically separate from your production environment. Usually it will be running off the same like branch as your production build as well. So yeah, we've been doing VS Code stuff. My personal preference for code editors is something called Sublime Text, which I love dearly. But we are not going to be using Sublime Text today, which will be absolutely fine. We're going to be using VS Code. We're also going to need ourselves a terminal, which is going to be relatively easy for those of you all running on either Linux or Macs. You can just head on over and open up your terminal application. If you're running on Windows, you will likely need to install, well, either feel free to use either command prompt, or if you're feeling particularly spicy, you can head on over and get yourself the Windows subsystem for Linux, which will give you a full-blown Linux terminal, which will allow you to follow along with what we're doing directly. Also going to need Python, which If you don't have it already, I would highly suggest that you head on over and install. We'll run through it in a moment to get that running. We also need ourselves pip, which comes pretty much when you install every Python environment. That's basically just our package manager, which is going to allow us to install libraries and all kinds of other fun stuff. We are going to need MariaDB, which is a database that you can run on your computer. And having all kinds of other fun. Can we do this on Replit? I don't believe you can do it on Replit on the basis of the fact that I'm like 90% sure that Replit does not let you create like local MariaDB databases. That's going to be your sticking point. If you have a way of like doing it outside of that, then sure, go for it. For the purposes of this, we're going to be following through with this tool set. So let's talk about VS Code quickly. We are going to need to install ourselves some lovely VS Code. VS Code is basically it's Microsoft's like code editor, effectively, or like their open source code editor. And in order to get that, you are going to want to head on over to mlhlocal.host/vscode-download. I would highly recommend that you head on over and do that right now, and drop me something in the chat once you've got that installed successfully. If you have any issues, most definitely let me know. I'm more than happy to give you a hand with that. We can use MariaDB in AWS. Yes, we absolutely can. In fact, we're going to be deploying MariaDB in AWS just a little bit later. So yeah, how are y'all doing? I'm gonna give you a what's the init vibes at the moment? Is VS Code and Visual Studio Code different? Nope, exact same thing. It's VS Code is just an abbreviation for Visual Studio. You'll hear a lot of people refer to the two interchangeably. Did you create an account in both areas, MariaDB? No, you do not. We are only going to be creating AWS accounts, and we're going to be making those a little bit later once we've gotten through all of our environment setup. What can you do if you're Windows? You can either use the command prompt, or if you are feeling particularly spicy, you can head on over and install the Windows subsystem for Linux. Python Sublime setup works? Yep, absolutely. If you're comfortable like writing Python stuff in Sublime and just sort of rolling on that basis, then great. So install MariaDB. Yep, we will run through installing MariaDB very, very shortly. Yeah, that is probably a fair point to make. Like Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code are different things. Visual Studio is like Microsoft's big chunky editor, whereas like VS Code is like the like lightweight, like almost like the web editor in a way, which I quite like. But yeah, cool. How's everybody looking? Throw me something in chat if you are looking pretty good to go on the VS Code side, or if you're just looking pretty good to go in general. It looks like y'all are beginning to get things rolling, which is awesome. We're going to be just another couple of minutes, and then we will continue. All right then. And if we are happy with our VS Code configuration, then I think we're going to move on to the next bit. We have jumped ourselves somehow all the way to the end. That ain't a fun time. There we go. Much better. Much better. So once you've installed it, you should open it up and you will see the following window. You will also be able to head on over. And if you head down to View Terminal on a Mac, I imagine it's similar on a Windows or Linux environment. Then you can head on over and open the Visual Studio Code terminal if you don't want to use a separate terminal, which I'm sure is going to be an absolutely lovely time. Can I see a pause button on Twitch? I'm like 90% sure that there is a pause button on Twitch, but I'm not completely sure. Right then, MovieDB. Okay, awesome. So we've got our code editor. Let's grab ourselves some Python, which is the next step. We are going to be rolling ourselves some Python 3 for this because Python 2 has been deprecated since the beginning of Python 2 has been deprecated since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, like literally like January, February 2020, which is kind of wild. So yeah, firstly, double check quickly. If you just drop to a terminal and type Python, if this like drops you into a shell, then congratulations, you have Python installed. Double check if you happen to have the correct version. If it starts with a 2, you're going to need to install Python 3. Otherwise, if you're all good to go, then yeah, do not worry about it. Let's head on over. Oh, and if you are on Windows machine, do not install Python from the Windows store. It will do very bad things. Your path variables get messed up. Your life gets way harder. Please don't do this. What you can do is head on over to mlhlocal.host/get/python, and you will nab yourself a lovely, lovely snaky programming bundle. For Windows, make sure that you tick this path checkbox. Do not miss this path checkbox. The one that says add Python 3.82 path. Make sure that you click that checkbox before you click install now, because otherwise everything is going to do the bad breaky thing, and we don't want the bad breaky thing. That's never a fun time. So once we are done with Python 3 stuff, we are going to head on over and create ourselves a new shell. And then we are going to drop ourselves some lovely Python right back in there again. And if that pops up with Python 3, then we are in a good place. So I'm going to give you all a couple of minutes to make sure that you've gotten Python all set up. And if you have, then let me know down below and we will move our way on. All right, I think everyone is looking pretty good at this point. Mr. Blahaj is ready. That is of course we are in a good place once the tiny sharks are all ready. What's going on? Oh, I think you may unfortunately be a. Hey kids, let's play the fun game of kill an audio driver. It's working great. So so far we are up to the level of so we've installed Visual Studio Code, we've installed Python. and we are going to be building ourselves a web app and then deploying all of that on AWS. Whether you use Bash in my terminal does not matter, should be fine. So it's not is recognizing Python 3. Yep, you can use Python 3. If it's named explicitly, that shouldn't really change much. Just make sure that wherever we're using Python in here, then use Python 3. Same thing if you're using pipenv. It might be pipenv 3. Pipenv 3. It might well be. Yep, if you've already got Python, then that's all chill. And once you've done that, we're just going to quickly do a check to make sure that pip's there. You can see here we're actually specifically picking pip3 in this instance, which is chill. But yeah, double check that that's all installed. And then once you're happy with that, let's quickly run through what we've done. So we've got Visual Studio Code installed. We've got a terminal running. We have learned a little bit about pip. And we are going to next be getting our database up and running. So if you want to just give me a shout in chat, if everything's going all right with your Python side, everything's all running as expected, then we will move on. Otherwise, we'll run through a couple of things in case you'll happen to need them. How do you add the Python shell to VS Code? Okay, if you basically for most installs, this should work fine. You do need to create a new terminal. Once you've installed Python, make sure that you create a new terminal in VS Code, because otherwise it won't pick up the new Python installation. That's worth mentioning. Installed, what if it's installed? Do you have, if you've installed Python, and just done install now and follow defaults, you should also have pip. If you somehow have got Python but not pip, then maybe try reinstalling things again, because usually they should show up as a pair. It's pretty unusual, I've found, that it will. That it will work like that. Cool. Well, it seems like everyone is looking pretty happy so far. I am definitely feeling pretty happy so far. I think on that basis, we are going to head on over. Oh. Cool, and that's the trick. We're gonna knock our music back in, which I'm happy with. Marvelous. Okay, so next step along the line, we are going to be. So we've got our Python, we've got our pip, we've got our VS Code. We are going to next jump into big, fun databasey times. So we are going to be using MariaDB today. And MariaDB is an open source relational database, which basically means, well, open source means that it is open and free for people to read the source code, modify the source code, all that fun jazz. Query language basically is a specific type of language that lets you basically make queries. It lets you read and write to relational data, relational being basically like a spreadsheet. So you have rows and columns and everything else. It sort of just runs as it does. So we are going to set ourselves up a table, and a table is basically like a spreadsheet sheet, effectively. So relational databases are databases that have relationships, and those relationships are usually between keys and between tables. I'm just checking where the audio is. Yep, audio's back. We just had a brief intermission in the song. But yeah, if we have a table for songs, we have a table for artists, we can link the artist IDs together, and then magically those two are then linked. And that then lets us do all kinds of fun things, like, for example, say, okay, I want all of the songs by this artist, or I want all of the artists that were like on this song, or like, all kinds of fun jazz. And we're going to be doing a little bit of that today. So similar to Python, installing MariaDB is kind of a bit complicated. So if you happen to hit any issues with this one, definitely let me know, because this is always a fun one. Head on over, if you are on a Windows machine, to the Windows link below. If you are not on a Windows machine, head on over to the Mac link below, and get MariaDB installing now. And let me know as soon as everything is rolling for you, and we will be on. Okay, there we go. Let's see if that's done the trick. I think we're back to normal. I will say Spotify is having a real fun time at the moment. I'm going to try and bring that down a bit. There we go. Awesome. All right. So, well, I am having just a lovely day with audio issues. I'm not even going to... Not even once. Not even once. Never a fun time. Okay. So, let's head on over here. Which link? Head on over to these two. I'm going to pop you mlhlocal.host/MariaDB-Windows. And if you happen to be like me and you're on a Mac, like that. And if you're on a Mac, you should, with a little bit of luck, be able to just drop in a brew install MariaDB, and then we should very shortly end up in a awesome situation where we just magically happen to have MariaDB stuff. We're going to give it a little moment for everything to kick in. Are you muted, or did you do it on purpose so you can sing? Y'all do not want to have a fun time with me singing. I do not recommend that in the slightest. But I'm going to give this a brief moment for it to kick in the downloads. Off we go, and I will be right back. pure unadulterated of installs. I'm having trouble downloading database while I study engineering. Yeah, not gonna lie. I've been having trouble watching this giant install blog. I confused asking me to make username and password for root. Okay, awesome. We are actually in that case, you're a little bit further along than me. Let me show you what you need to be doing next, which is a good time. We enjoy a good time. So, that's going there. Where did our music go? Oh no, we've lost our music. This is unacceptable. Okay, we have some hype music now. That's better. That's much better. Okay then. So, why do I keep jumping to the end of the entire slide deck? Oh my god. Okay, here we go. So, once we get ourselves running, for Mac people, we're going to be using Homebrew. So if you do not have Homebrew, then get yourself some Homebrew. If you're also on a Mac, you're going to need to alias this afterwards, which is fine. We'll sort that jazz out shortly. So you can see here, there we go. You can see here that when you head on in, it will, if you ask it to make username and password for root, just call it root and put in whatever password that you want. This is going to be the root account for the MariaDB installation. So make sure that you set that to something that you remember. And then when we go in to like log in like this a little bit later, make sure that you've got that password handy because you'll likely need it. You can set it to just be blank. Good security practice usually states that you should not do that. But you absolutely can do. There's no specific reason why you can't do that. But yeah. There's definitely no reason why you, as a general rule, I tend to set my passwords, and you should too. So am I still on Windows yet? Not yet. We are, chugging through all of that jazz. We've got our MySQL root. Once we get past all of that, we are going to need to create ourselves a database. I am still waiting for MariaDB to do its fun thing, so we'll be doing this a little bit later, but to give you all a general idea of how this is going to roll, we're going to be creating ourselves a database. We're going to be creating ourselves a new MySQL user because we're going to need one that we can like actually have talking that isn't root, because we usually don't want to use the root credentials for like everything. That's like really bad security practice. And then we're going to give our MySQL user some privileges, and then we're going to create ourselves a MySQL URL, which is how we're going to be connecting in a little bit later down the line. But yeah, it's going to be a good time. So I'm actually not Windows yet. Cool. Yeah, if any of y'all happen to be having any trouble with the install process, then do let me know. Otherwise, once you're set up, let me know and we'll move on to getting all of this jazz rolling. Having a lot of trouble installing. Okay, awesome. Well, not awesome. Absolutely not awesome. Pretty not awesome, all things considered. But if you let me know what you happen to have, what you happen to have going on with it, then I'll be more than happy to give you a hand if you would like to describe the issue to me. Unfortunately, there's only so much that I can do in terms of like jazz there, but we will try and do as much as we possibly can do. Not a problem. It is entirely what I'm here for. I'm on Windows, number one. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at this link because this is a very good question and one that I'm sure we are going to get at least once or twice. So you've ended up, you are a awesome hacker, and you have ended up on this page right here. And this page right here is the big old MariaDB download page, and you're like, I have no idea where I need to do for this. So what you're going to do is you're going to click yourself this bottom one here, the MSI. What this is going to do is this will give you like a basically it's like the Windows installer version. That should then, you double click that, have everything rolling, and it will just magically start doing its thing. So that is the plan. The plan, should you choose to accept it, is to head on and click the MSI link and then install the installer. How sneaky. How very sneaky. And it looks like we're getting there with the MariaDB install as well, which is quite nice. Cancel the default options, but there's not a great. So I downloaded the only two. Great, so I downloaded the only two useless ones. I'm so sorry. Technically, yes. Realistically, no. But like, kind of. Yeah, I cancel the default options. There's not my C in the bin folder. Interesting. Very interesting. Do you have anything else? What do you have in your bin folder? That's a good question. Let's start from there and work our way backwards. That is going to be the real question here. What do we do after MariaDB? Awesome. What do we do after MariaDB? Well, we are going to head on over and we are going to create ourselves a database. We're going to create ourselves some tables, and then we're going to create ourselves a few other fun things. But we are just going to wait a brief moment in order to get everybody up and running. And then once you're happy with that, we'll just wait for a couple more people to pop their heads into chat, and then we should be pretty much good to go, which I am very excited about. Which is going to be an absolutely marvelous time, and I'm very, very excited about it. Although for some reason, what has happened here? I have installed MariaDB. You're gonna love this. Oh boy, have I done a big not that. So I've been. Oh boy. So I've installed. I've gone and run like brew install MariaDB, and Homebrew has decided to update itself, which would be fine if it wasn't for the fact that it is apparently now trying to rebuild FFmpeg, which anyone who is familiar generally with FFmpeg knows that is a chunk. That's a big chunk. Oh boy, that's going to be fun. So hopefully that finishes within the next millennia. Otherwise, we are going to be stuck here for a heck of a while. Interestingly, actually, as I've just realized, this is entirely unrelated, but I've just realized that it is now Thursday, which means that I have at least one episode of Loki to catch up on, which I am very excited about. we shall see precisely how that pans out. But I am very excited. Hello, hello. How are you doing? I have people, all kinds of people just flying into chat today. It is absolutely marvelous. I am very much on board with this. So then, we are then going to head ourselves on over once everybody is happy. Let me just binge it when it ends in the day. No, I am. Here's the thing, right? I thought that I was going to be like. I thought it was going to be a kind of situation where where I was going to like watch the first couple of episodes and be like, nah, this isn't that good, and like just go back to my life and then like probably like watch it all through once everything came out. No, I am addicted to that show now. I am way too on board with that show. Mainly because I have a real soft spot for like time travel stuff, but also because I have watched pretty much every single thing that like Marvel have ever put out. So I am very on board. I am like very on board. I'm all loaded with pyro and fire puns. Well, I guess you're just gonna have to shoot your shot then. Can you show your setup? Which part of the setup? It's exactly the problem. The wait between episodes is way worse. Yeah, that's the problem, right? Is like what I want is like the Netflix model where they just dump an entire season on you in a day and then be like, your sleep does not matter. It's time for 9 hours worth of television, and I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. The best thing about the setup is the small house. Yeah, he's a good boy, isn't he? Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. I love him. I love him. He's so soft. He's so soft. Adorable. Absolutely adorable. The whole setup? Well, we can't like I can't like take my camera and just sort of like walk my way around the room. We're gonna have to be a bit more specific here. There's also certain sections of the setup in this room that I can't show. Because they contain fun secret projects, which are going to be showing up on my YouTube channel within the next roughly a month or so. At least that is the plan. There's an entire box of parts that just showed up recently that I'm very excited about. And also, if this gives you, I'm going to give you a spoiler actually. I have 150 Nerf darts behind me that I have just like that just arrived today that I've ordered in bulk. There's going to be some fun with those. Still MariaDB from Chrome off your Friday, so I never like that. Once you've got MariaDB running, then we'll run through the rest of it. 150, yeah, I think it's actually closer to 200. Hang on, let me just grab them quick. This is like a small amount of them, but I have like a lot, like a lot. It's genuinely kind of wild. So yeah, there's definitely going to be some fun stuff showing up with Nerf. MariaDB installation command for Windows, 100%. MariaDB installation command for Windows is that basically. Head on over to the site. The site gives you the run through, and then once you've installed it, you should end up with a where is it? There we go. You should end up with a C program files MariaDB folder, and then the bin and MySQL MySQL.exe should then be available. Is that a rocket? Yes, that is a rocket. You can also find that video on my YouTube channel where I did a telemetry model rocket launch as part of my non-MLH job. which was a hell of a lot of fun. But yeah, that is a full-size rocket. It takes actual rocket motors. I'm currently working on a different one that can do thrust vector control, with the aim of basically being able to land it back down on its own like engine. But that's still very much in progress. So then, next up, we need to create ourselves a database, and you can do that by jumping into the command line and running a lovely show database, which is going to be awesome. In fact, we are going to do that right now. So if I head on over and pull us up a terminal, then we should, with a little bit of luck, we're going to do sudo mysql-u root-p. Ooh. I am incapable of typing in my own password today. That's great. Cool. Done as well. Can you tell us about this, please? What do you want to tell? What do you want to be told about? Oh, is this the MariaDB installation file for Windows? Well, I believe everything should be in the. I believe everything should be in the. Do you want us in PowerShell or command line? I'm 90% sure that either of those will work. Like, I'm pretty sure that, at least for the purposes of this, PowerShell versus command line, at least on Windows, is interchangeable. So that part should be absolutely fine. But yeah, so we are going to head on over. We're going to do a show databases. And we can see that we have ourselves a information schema. We have MySQL. We have all of that jazz. We're going to do a create database for places, like so. I need to take that bottom bar out because that is very distracting. There we go. Can I put it on the top? What does that do? That's not what I was after. That is way too big. Cool. Okay, so we're going to create ourselves a database like so. And then once we are happy with that, we are going to run another show databases in order to double check that our places do in fact show up, which they do. So now we need to take a look at our users. So we are going to select user from MySQL.user. So we can see we've got myself, we've got that, and we've got boot. So we're just going to create a quick user called, let's put localhost at, oh God, I can't do that. MLH, oh, this is going to be fun. MLH at a localhost. You see what I did there? Identified by fancy secret password, which we love. And then once we've done that, we're just going to give it like all of the permissions. So we're going to do grant all priv. I need to learn how to spell IVILEGE privileges. Yes. Note to self: do not try and get the get the person with mild like dyslexia, dyspraxia, and all that jazz to try and recall that word off by heart. Doesn't end well. Places.start to MLH at localhost. Awesome. Everything's happy. Is everyone following along on this so far? Shoot me something in chat if there's anything about this that you don't happen to understand or you need a refresher on, and I'll be more than happy to help you all. I'm just going to check Twitch chat. All right, everybody looks pretty happy on this one, so we are going to carry on. Also, terminal I'm typing on, how do I get there? This is literally any terminal. You do not need anything particularly fancy for this. If you can find a terminal within VS Code, then feel free to use that one. If you're using command prompt, the way that you get into the MariaDB terminal is words. MariaDB has taken a bit of a while to install. Unfortunately, there is not too much that we can really do about that. It just sort of likes to chug. There we go. So this is how you get into that view, is you head on over in your Windows command prompt and you type in that one right there. I am going to let you all make sure that you got into that point quickly. I'm going to grab some water and I will be right back. I have acquired it. I've acquired chunkiest water, which I am very happy with. Let's just make sure our audio is good. It is indeed. And as soon as I say that, the allergies just decide to kick in and are like, you are not going to do that to me today, which is awesome. This is what I get for waking up this morning and not forgetting to take my antihistamine. I am now doomed to be just horrifically sneezy for the rest of the day. All right, let's take a look. See, some of y'all, MySQL actually is not recognized until it's a command operable program or batch file. Have you tried? Well, just to double check, make sure that you have that ampersand at the beginning of it and to quote the entire like MySQL bit. Like literally repeat what is on the screen right now verbatim. So if you're using command prompt without the app, cool. If it works for you without the app, then awesome. For other people, it might be worth trying it with the app. If that doesn't work, try running it in PowerShell. For some reason, these things always seem to work better in PowerShell. I'm not completely sure why. I think it's like some form of black magic, but it usually tends to work out great. So yeah, once that's all rolling, we are going to be creating our database. We're going to be creating our user as we've done. So we select it, we create it. We head on over from ground privileges and all of that jazz. And I'm going to show you all of those commands by showing you where I've run them. And I'm going to leave that up for a little moment. And then once everybody is happy with that, here we go. So you've got our create database call. Then we've got our create user call.
and then we've got our grant privileges call. So those are the three main ones that you want to hit here. So if you make sure that type it without the ampersand, yeah, potentially. Some people seem to have it work with, some people seem to have it work without. It's definitely worth trying it both ways. But yeah, so make sure that you have created your database with that create database places command. Make sure that you've created your user, and make sure that you have granted that user with all of the necessary privileges on places. So next up on the list, we are going to be generating our MySQL URL. And this is really important because this is going to be the way that we are going to set everything up. So we are going to replace our username and password with our username and password that we just did a moment ago. We're going to replace our localhost and port stay the same. And our database name in this case is places. So it's going to be /places at the end. So for example, my database URL would be MySQL plus MySQL :// MLH and then fancy secret password at localhost 2306/places. But yeah, so far we have done a whole bunch of fun stuff. We have learned about MySQL stuff. We've installed MariaDB. We've created ourselves a database, and we have done all of our user jazz. So next step along the line is that we are going to be signing ourselves up with AWS. So if you are a new AWS user, then you are going to get yourself 12 months of free tier access. However, if you are not a new AWS user, you are going to need to nab yourself a credit card in order to complete that. I have taken the liberty of having used AWS for a little while, so I am very much been paying them a little bit of money every now and then for a while now. If you also happen to have yourself a .edu email address, then you can head on over to this link and use the AWS Educate side of things in order to get yourself an account with a few extra little free perks that you can use to sort of play around with as a student. You do require a credit card linked to complete registration, but otherwise head on over here and get that account set up. So once you have gone through and completed that sign up process, we are going to need to head over and sign in. So we're going to head on over to the AWS console. We're going to click the sign in button, and that is going to drop you into a view a bit like this. And you are going to put your email in. And then once you've got that done, you're going to put your password in. And once you've successfully logged in on that, you should be able to see the AWS management console pretty much just like this. So just to recap, head on over to mlhlocal.host/AWS-signup. And once everybody is happy with that, I'll give it a couple minutes for everyone to get everything set up on that. And then once that's done, we will move on to the next section. What password have you added while installing MySQL? You can set it to be a blank password. If you set it to be a password, make sure that you remember that password because you are 100% going to need that. Otherwise, it's never going to play ball for you. Unfortunately, you've got to make sure that one that you keep a close eye on that one. Definitely, I highly recommend that. But yeah, otherwise it's all looking pretty good from the looks of things. We'll give it a couple more minutes, and once that's done, we'll move on to the next section of our workshop. Looks like people are having a heck of a time. If you do not have a credit card, unfortunately, I believe it does work with debit cards as well. But if you don't have like a form of payment card that you can use to get the account set up, then unfortunately you are not going to be able to complete this one. It should work with credit or debit. I know that I have mine connected to a debit card, and that tends to work fine. They do usually put like a dollar or two's transaction through it first, just to make sure that it's like valid. But otherwise, you should be fine. But yeah, that should be relatively easy. We'll give you all just a minute more, and then we will carry on through and hopefully get you all some awesome rest of the day bits. Marvelous. All right. All right, if everybody is happy with this one, then I'm going to zoom on through. So you have had some fun, awesome times setting up your account, and you are now into the AWS Management Console. So the next step is that you are going to create yourself an IAM user. And IAM is basically like AWS's like user management system. It's also like contains all like permissioning stuff. An IAM user is basically how you create an IAM user within an account. When you set an account up, you get a set of credentials for that. That's basically like your root credentials. You really, really, really don't want to use like your root credentials to do everything, which is why we're going to set an IAM user up, because it's got slightly less permissions and it's safer. The root account like has a lot of power. You can very easily like delete stuff by accident, or like generally you want to create like slightly more limited accounts for you so that you have a bit more safety on it. But yeah, so in order to create an IAM user, you're going to want to head on over and search for IAM in your management console. There should be a big search box at the top. If not, you can click the drop down and you'll be able to find IAM under that. And once you have selected IAM, you're going to head on over, you're going to select users on the left-hand side, and you're going to click that big blue add user button. And what that is going to do is that is going to drop you into a view just like this. And you are going to enter the username of your choice for your specific IAM user. And then you're going to make sure that you tick those two boxes underneath for access type. One of those is programmatic access. What that will do is that will give your user an access key and a secret. That is important because we are going to be using the command line interface in a little bit, and you are most definitely going to want to have access to that one. You are also going to want to take the AWS Management Console access one. That will also give you the ability to log in basically the same way that we've just done. And what that means is that we can go into the AWS Management Console, we can do Management Console-y stuff without having to go in through the root account, which is, like I say, much, much safer than the alternative. You can either auto-generate a password or you can set your own password. That doesn't much matter, but as a general rule, I'll usually just auto-generate the password and then store it in a password manager, which tends to be a pretty good way to roll. Once we have done that, we are going to want to head on over and set ourselves some permissions. So we are going to click the add user to group. We're not going to yet. We're going to do it in a moment. So just click tags. We're not going to add them to anything quite yet. We will do very, very shortly. And then once we are happy with that, we are going to click review. We're going to check that everything's happy. And then once we're happy with that, we'll click create. And it will take you to this view, which basically shows you the access key ID, the secret access key, and your password. Make sure that you copy all of these down. The other thing you can do as well downloading the CSV at the top. You see that download CSV button? If you do that, that will also work. You want to keep a copy of these because this is the only point that those are going to be visible. Otherwise, you'll have to create a new user. What's YouTube? What is YouTube channel? That is an awesome question. You can find me. You can find me over here. Funnily enough, if you head on over to the link that I've just dropped you in there, you should be able to find my Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. I do a lot of fun stuff on all of them. It is a heck of a time. But yeah, so make sure that you download yourself a .csv. That is very important. Next step, you've got all your credentials. Everything's happy. Step 2, head on over and create ourselves an IAM group. So groups are basically a collection of users, and it's also really useful because groups are also a great way to attach permissions to things. So you specifically want ways to attach permissions to stuff because otherwise, God help you, it's going to be a heck of a time. If you head on over here and click groups on the left-hand side, then you're going to be able to find yourself the groups view. Awesome. I'll catch you later, IAM. I would highly recommend, by the way, if you all happen to have an interest in the sort of making side of things, I'm doing a workshop tomorrow, actually, on 3D modeling and how to 3D model stuff, build things, 3D printing, all that jazz. So that is going to be a heck of a fun time, and is not going to be as like it's not going to be like heavy on the like following along stuff. We're just going to be like making some cool stuff, having some fun, vibing. So definitely pop along and check that one out. That's going to be awesome. I'm very excited for that one. But yeah, so create a new group, select groups on the left-hand side, click new group. What time? Awesome question. I actually can't remember because I am bad at my own calendar. It is in at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. UK time, which would make it 9 a.m. Eastern time, or 6:30 p.m. India. If that happens to help y'all, that is when you are looking for. So yeah, drop a group name in, hit next step, and you will be dropped into this incredible view that will definitely make you very, very scared. Do not be scared. This is just, like, people get freaked out by this because it will show you every single policy that is available. See you then. It'll show you every single policy possibly available in all of AWS. You do not need these. You only need 2 of these. One of them is the Elastic Beanstalk Full Access one, which basically lets you do like normal Elastic Beanstalk stuff. Like you're basically an Elastic Beanstalk admin, and then nothing else. And then the other one you're going to need is the Elastic Beanstalk service, and that grants permissions from Elastic Beanstalk to basically go off and do like stuff within the account to just kind of like dawdle around and do its whole thing. It's a heck of a time. So we head on over and we create ourselves a new IAM group. And once we have selected that policy, then we are going to head on over and we are going to hit that next step button. Once you've done that, we'll get to this review step, which is going to show us the actual group name. And then once we've done that, all we have to do is head and hit that big create group button, and everything is good to go. So now we've got a user and we've got a group, but we need to actually tie those 2 together. So the next step that we need to do is add our IAM user into said group. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to click on the group name in our groups drop down on the left. We click groups, that should show us the list of all the groups. We click our group, we will then get a view that is a little bit like the one in the bottom right. And then we are going to select add users to group. We then select the user that we just created, we pick them, we make sure that the checkbox is checked, and then we click the add users button. And that should pretty much, with a little bit of luck, you should head back over to your users drop down on the left-hand side and you will be able to nab yourself some fun stuff. what you will specifically be able to see is that you should have yourself a user with the username that you've defined. And you should also see that that user is within the group that you just created as well. So quick recap. We have created ourselves an AWS account. We have created ourselves an IAM user for our AWS account. We have created ourselves a group that has all the permissions needed to do fun, cool, elastic beanstalky things. And we have added the user we created to the group. So we've basically gotten all of our setup over the way. And so the next step is to build and run our application. So let's head on over and grab ourselves this starter code. So if you head on over to mlhlocal.host/AWS starter code, as you can see on the screen there, I am also going to drop that in the chat. Like so. Then all you need to do is head on over there, get that cloned down, all of that jazz. And once you are happy with that, then we will move on to getting everything nice and fanciful running, which should be a pretty good time. Give you all a couple of minutes to get all that together, and then we will move on to the next bit. But yeah, so okay, looks like everything is pretty much rolling as we would expect. Twitch chat is looking pretty happy with how everything is panning out here. So once you've gotten that starter code, if you have not already gotten that starter code, if you've not like git clone stuff as expected, head on over and click the code drop down in the right on GitHub, and you should be able to download zip. Otherwise, if you happen to know how to do like normal fancy cloning stuff, you can also do it with GitHub desktop, or you can grab that URL right there, drop a git clone. It's a good old time. So once you've got that, if you happen to have gone down the route of downloading it as a zip file, you're going to need to extract said zip file. Head on over and right-click it. Realistically, it should be pretty simple. On a Mac, it's pretty much the same. Windows, we've got that pretty much the same process. Right-click it, click export. It'll drop you into a folder. Tell us about the shark behind you. People in Twitch chat have been losing their mind about the shark behind me for pretty much the last 45 minutes. It appears that we have pretty much the entirety, or at least a significant section of Blahar's gang, who have decided to rock up today, and it is a heck of a time. I am very, very on board with this. So if you happen to have your project code, and your project code is looking somewhat like this, then everything is going to be absolutely fine. Don't worry too much if it doesn't exactly match. We'll tweak that. So these are basically the core files that we are going to want here. We have our env example file, which are environment variables that we need to run the project locally. We have our application.py, where our endpoints are basically live. Everything, all of our general endpoints are sitting in there. We have our config.py, which is where our environment variables live, and it also sets up our database access, which we're going to do in a little bit. And we have our database.py, which sets up the database table and all of the fields that are used. And all of these are .py files, which are Python files, except for the gitignore, which is gitignore, which basically means that it lists off all the stuff that we don't want to check into Git, and our envs, which just contain environment variables and therefore are not Python code. Nice and easy. We've also got our yelp.py, which just contains a little bit of boilerplate code to talk to the Yelp API. We have our local requirements.txt, which contains all of the packages that we need to run the thing locally. We have our requirements.txt, which contains all of the stuff we need to run the thing not locally. We have our README, which contains all of the necessary README bits. in terms of like information around the project. If there's anything that you need to think about, then we can sort of refer back to that. And outside of that, we have our setup.sh, which you can run, which will automatically install all of the dependency chain. That was a lot. If there's anything that you'll happen to need me to run along with or take a look at, then do feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I'll hold on here just for a brief moment, and if anyone has any questions, then we'll run through them. Otherwise, we will carry on. I didn't get .elastic beanstalk from .env. Don't worry too much about that. We will run through that very, very shortly. It will be an absolutely marvelous time. I am most certainly sure. But yeah, it appears that the slides have magically disappeared. Why have slides magically disappeared? I would like them not to magically disappear, please. That would be a really nice experience for everyone involved. I feel like that's a good time. We're taking a look at our files. That is what we're up to. No, indeed. So everybody seems pretty happy. So let's create ourselves an env file. So an env file, or specifically a .env file, that dot is very important. You will realize why that dot is important later, but that dot is very important. That is a pretty critical part of this. Is basically where we are going to be storing all of our like stuff. So on that basis, we've got like all of general jazz. We need somewhere to put all of our like configuration variables and all of that jazz. So we are going to head on over. We're going to create new file, and we're going to click new file. Well, I'm going to click file first, then we're going to click new file. And then we are going to save it as a .env. We specifically need to make sure that we have no extension. That is very important. Because specifically, if you have a .env with an extension, then all hell is going to break loose. You're not going to have a fun time. Do not recommend. And there are two bits that you are going to want. Both of these are in your .env.example. That holds your secret. That holds your secret information, which is quite important. You also, outside of that, have the other various bits that are relatively important, that being the database URL. With those two, you should be pretty much good to go. All we need to do really is to be able to talk to the database, and we need to be able to talk to Yelp. And if we've got those two shot down, then we are good to go. So once we're happy with that, then congratulations. We have done pretty much the bulk of the work at this point. We have got all of our environment stuff up. We've cloned the repo. We've figured out how to use GitHub properly. The next stuff is that we need to start editing a few files and getting things ready to get this into AWS. So step one is that we are going to be installing our libraries. And as part of that, we are going to be using that fun pip command that we were talking about earlier. So you are going to want to drop to a terminal and type this command at the bottom, which is python-m pip install-r local requirements.txt. And what that's going to do is that is going to take all of your stuff and it is going to install all of the local requirements related stuff specifically into your local environment, which is precisely what we want, which is marvelous. So as soon as that is all ironed out, then I'm going to, again, leave a little gap just for people to catch up on things. But once you are happy with that, then I am going to jump back in and we will continue on. But yeah, let me know how you're doing in terms of the environment. All right, how is everything looking? Everybody happy? Relatively happy? Sort of happy? Kind of happy? Extremely happy? I feel like extremely happy is probably the way to go. But yeah, it's going to be a really awesome time. All right, it looks like everyone is having a pretty good time with this. So we have got our libraries installed. Next step, we need to actually run the thing. So we are going to go for two slightly different approaches based on whether you're running on Mac or Windows. Running Flask locally means that we're creating a server which is localized to our device. This ain't going to be visible to the internet, which is great for like testing and debugging purposes, because all you really need to do is look at your own stuff instead of looking at anything else. But yeah, should be a good time. So you're going to head on over, and once you've run one of these two commands, then you should get yourself a view pretty much like this, with a local URL of 127.0.0.1 hash 5000. That's the standard Flask port. If it's on a different port, it means that you might already be running a Flask app, or if it errors, it means you might already be running a Flask app. So do make sure that you are only running that command once. And the 127.0.0.1, that means that we are running it on localhost, which is basically the local IP address of the computer. That can't be accessed from anything outside of the computer itself, which means that you are safe from anyone outside of your environment getting to play with fun stuff. Yeah, no one else can access your web app but you, which means that you can do all kinds of fun stuff, and that is just how things vibe. Once you are done with that jazz, if you edit, head on over and visit the URL in your browser, you should see the following webpage. And it's, yeah, we got like, welcome to the event suggestion. Oh no, we ain't got nothing here. So we're gonna need to do a little bit of work in order to get everything rolling on this one. So we are going to head on over, and we are going to update our render template method. And Flask has, well, let's talk through the Flask code here for a moment. So we've got an application root. That begins with an at, and it is placed before a function. In Python, that is called a function decorator. And what that basically means is that it is a special function which runs before the function that it's on does. So before we get to calling home, the application root runs, and what this does specifically is it checks whether it matches the right root, and if it does, then it runs the home function, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't. We then do def home, which is a function definition in Python, and we then return render template. And render template is a like magic Flask function, which basically takes a template file and it does some fun, gingery, rendery stuff. When I say ginger, I'm using it in the phrase JINJA, which is Flask's templating engine. We do not have a bunch of like awesome gingerhead people writing templates for us manually. That would be a lot of work, and it really would not be particularly fun for anyone involved. So instead, we use a library called Ginger, which does our templating for us. And once you have set up your start.html, and you're happy with that, then we can also pass arguments into our render template, and those will be passed into the template, the HTML template itself. So in this case, we're passing in a city argument, which comes from our request.args, which it basically reads in our query parameters on the request side. So what are we subsequently going to need to do? Well, firstly, Flask will auto reload web pages once you hit save. So if we change this from like start.html to homepage.html, and then you save and you reload, then you should get yourself the main homepage of the app, something like this. We're gonna be like, yay, everything's going great. We're having a real good ass time. But unfortunately, we need to do a little bit more work, because we got our main homepage up, but we ain't got any places. Oh my God, Adam's here. It's the dude, the Blahaja. Have you seen my shark? Have you seen my shark? He's adorable. cutest thing ever. I want to like just like smoosh him up like a baby puppy. He's like, it's so good. But yeah, so we have learned about Python and pip. We have ran our Flask app. Next up, we are going to do a little bit around APIs. So we're going to deal with the fun, awesome Yelp side of this, which is going to be a heck of a time. So what is an API? Well, APIs are application programming interfaces. In a roundabout way of saying things, APIs are basically structured ways for one program to like let other programs access it. Usually that's in the form of like what you'll commonly refer to as REST APIs, which is basically where an application will like call another application using a web request. But there's all kinds of different APIs. You can get like REST APIs. You can have like gRPC APIs. You can have like APIs over Pigeon. I don't know how like performant that would be, but you could technically do it. In our case, we're going to be using Yelp's REST API to request data from Yelp. And the way that we are going to do that is we are going to call Yelp's API. But we can't just like call Yelp's API because Yelp doesn't want everyone randomly calling their API, because that would be really bad for them and everything would just disappear into the abyss really, really, really quickly. It would not be a fun time. Everything would sort of just disappear into the bad times. So we want to get ourselves an API key. You are going to head on over to here. I'm going to send you a link. It is big link. Yelp.ca/developers/vt/manage app. And if you head on over to there, you will be able to nab yourself a very nice, beautiful Yelp API key. You will need to sign up for a Yelp account. But once you've done that, you should be able to just set an app up, provide a little bit of information, what the app name is, like your industry, email, quick description, and then you should all be good to go real nice and quickly, which is a marvelous time. But yeah, I will give you all very shortly the relative, very shortly, leave you all to get all caught up with creating your apps. Will this recording session be available on YouTube playlists later? I do not know if it's going to be available on YouTube. I know that it is going to be available. I know that it's going to be available on. It should still be available on Twitch VODs. I'm like 100% sure it's going to be available on Twitch VODs. I don't know if it's going to be available on YouTube, because I think the YouTube videos go unlisted after it stops going live. But if you head on over to Twitch, you should still be able to catch this workshop, which should be absolutely fine. Yeah, let me know how your like API key stuff was supposed to go. And I will bump that through very, very shortly. But yeah, so once you've got your Yelp API key, you're going to copy that key. You are going to head on over and you are going to put that key bam into your database URL. And once you've done that, everything is going to be going absolutely fine. And once you've gotten that all in, then all you need to do is brush up on your database URL, make sure that that's all correct. Make sure that your Yelp API token is correct. And then once that's done, we are going to head on over and run the project again. And what we should see this time is a little bit different. We should see our page getting up. But like when we type in a city, we get like stuck, right? Like it's not actually going anywhere. We've got a bug in here somewhere. And the answer to that question is that we haven't actually got a like way to return a list of places yet. So we need to fix that. So we head on over to the Yelp.py and we take a look at our get places function. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a city parameter. And And then we need to head on over to our headers. We need to drop in our bearer header, and we need to modify that environment variable. So at the moment it's called fix me. For example, we should probably change this to like Yelp auth token because we probably want to read that auth token in. Once that's done, we are going to head on over and we are going to return ourselves a JSON response body. We are going to parse that to get our total list of businesses, which should be a heck of a time. Once that's all done, then we should be pretty much good to go. And once that is all sorted out and everything is happy, then you should be able to head back on over once you've set those environment variables, and you should be able to rerun the project. And once you've done that, then theoretically, with a little bit of, I need to take that off the screen. There we go. With a little bit of luck, then we should end up in a situation where, hey, we now got seafood, and we are in a real good place, all things considered at that point. Everything is pretty much good to go, which is awesome. But yeah, so once that is all done and dusted, which should be a heck of a time, then we are going to head on over and we are going to get this into production, because now we have our seafood suggestions all done and dusted, and now we need to share this with the world. This is an incredible piece of technology that everybody should have. So looks great. No one else can see it, certainly on our machine. This ain't a great time. This is less than a great time. So in order to fix this, we need to deploy it, and we are going to deploy it by using Elastic Beanstalk. Elastic Beanstalk is basically an AWS service, and what it does is it takes all of the fun stuff that you would normally have to set up like manually on, like, for example, like DigitalOcean. And basically it takes care of like all of the stuff. So you can, like, domain management is handled within AWS, all of your like code scaling, all of that jazz, monitoring security, everything just sort of gets handled as per, which is absolutely fine. So the way that we are going to do that, we're going to head on over. We are going to install ourselves the AWS Elastic Beanstalk CLI, and we can do that with pip. If we drop to a terminal and just type pip install AWS EB CLI, then that is going to give you everything that you need to do to get all of this running, which is awesome. Once you've done that, you should be able to head on over and set yourselves up Elastic Beanstalk. Now, what that's going to do is a bunch of different things. If you run EB init, that's going to set you up a brand new Elastic Beanstalk instance. And what that is going to do is it's going to roll up all of the stuff you need for the domains. It's going to roll up all the stuff you need to host it, and it's going to set up all of your Python environment for you. So region, you are going to want to select the default option, which I believe is 3. Make sure that you write it down, because you do not want to go through every single AWS region to try and find your stuff when you view it on the console. If you know which region it is, you can pick it out of the region select list in the upper right, and that is way, 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 way easier. Code commit, we do not want. That is sort of like AWS, what's it called? Sort of like GitHub Actions or like Terraform or like sort of like CloudFormation. But yeah, we are not gonna need that one handy. Credentials wise, log in with the IAM user that we created at the start of the workshop. If you remember way back when I was like, make sure that you save your access key and your secret access key, otherwise you're going to have a bad time. This is the point that you need to head on in to either where you've like noted those down or where you've noted down your CSV, just downloaded the whole thing. Grab those out, drop those in, everything will go just fine. Your application name, you probably don't want to change it. It'll just be the same as your directory. So you can just keep that going as it is. Your Python version, you want 3.7 running on Amazon Linux 2. Oh boy, I remember back when we were on Amazon Linux 1 and we had to like migrate everything from like Amazon Linux 1 to 2. But yeah, and SSH, we want SSH enabled so that we can do some fun debuggy things. And once we've enabled, like initiated all the fun Elastic Beanstalk stuff, we're going to create ourselves an Elastic Beanstalk environment. Our environment name will just keep as default, same for DNS, same for the load balancer, and we do not want spot fleet requests. So we have installed the Elastic Beanstalk CLI. We set up a new Elastic Beanstalk instance. Our next step is that we need to add a database to our Elastic Beanstalk instance. So we have our local running MariaDB, which is awesome and great and fine, but that ain't gonna cut it in the fun big cloud world, because unfortunately we can't run MariaDB. We can't just SSH into Elastic Beanstalk and run MariaDB. That would be a really bad idea. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to use a lovely AWS service that we have called RDS, which is AWS's relational database service. And what this lets us do is we can just say, I want like, I don't know, Postgres, I want MariaDB, I want MySQL. And then it will just disappear off and like do some fancy fun magic stuff in the background and then be like, hey, here's a MariaDB instance. It just like, it's awesome. You press a button, you get a database. It's great. So we head on over and we make sure that we set our RDS engine variable. We specifically want to be using MySQL. And once we've set that, then we are going to run our EB deploy command, which is going to deploy the entire application. There'll be a lot of logs at this point. Everything should be pretty chill. Don't worry too much about that. And then once we are all the way through the EB deploy process, then we are going to open our application in the browser with EB open. And we're a bit confused because, like, yet again, we've ended up in a weird situation where we're like searching stuff and we're not quite sure what's happened. And like, we know that we've like written our code to like return values for that stuff now. So we don't think it's that, but it's like, what's going on here? Well, if you head on over, if you are using Chrome, you can find the developer tools section. Most browsers won't have as much information as Chrome does, but generally this should be the same across all of them. Is if you right click and click view source, then you'll end up in your developer console. If you head on over to the network tab, then you will see there is an error. We're getting a 500 error when we try and search stuff. And the network tab shows a 500 error from Yelp. And it's like, okay, what a server error. Okay, so what's going on here? Well, if we take a look in here, then and we open up our Elastic Beanstalk console, we will realize that we haven't actually set ourselves any environment variables. So what we need to do is we want to head on over to the side. We want to click that configuration tab, and we are going to want to hit the edit bit in the software block. And what that's going to do is that's going to open up our ability to set all of our environment properties. And what we want to do is we just want to head on into what we've got in our .env file and just copy each name and each value from that .env file straight into the Elastic Beanstalk console. It's literally that easy. Just take your value, take your key, make sure they're all set up correctly, and then just hit apply. And once it's applied, it can take a little moment to like update the environment. You'll see in the recent events list, once it's updated, it will say environment update completed successfully. And once that's done, we should be able to click on over and our magical seafood suggestion generator is now working flawlessly. It is a good day. It's a very good day. Small Harsh is in fact really happy about this because he's been after a seafood suggestion generator for so long you don't even know. Like this little one gets through so much seafood that I run out on a daily basis. So like finding places where we can find seafood is particularly useful. So congratulations, you have deployed your web app on AWS. Do not forget to make sure that once you're done playing around with this and you are all happy with how everything's going, make sure that you head back to the environments view, select the environment and select terminate environment. The free tier is only active for a limited time, so make sure that you terminate your environment to avoid like running over any potential charges that you could potentially get through AWS, because that's not a particularly fun time for anyone involved. We have just covered a whole ton of stuff. So congratulations if you've been following along. If you have not, then feel free to head on back to the VOD a little later and catch up on it. It should be available on pretty much everything. So feel free to catch up as you go. And if you happen to have any questions, make sure that you drop them on the MLH Discord. We are more than happy to help clarify those. We have set up our Elastic Beanstalk instance. We've created our environment. We have modified all of our environment variables on the Elastic Beanstalk console so that everything is happy. We've got a running app, and we are right at the end. So let's talk a little bit about what we've learned. We've talked about getting our environment set up. We've talked about all of our like development environment bits, what we need to get that rolling. We've talked about running a full stack web app locally under Flask, which we've done. We've talked about writing a little bit of Flask code, interacting with the Yelp API. We've talked about deploying apps for like Elastic Beanstalk generally using the web console and the CLI. And we've talked about how to configure Elastic Beanstalk apps by both adding like an RDS database to them and by adding our own environment variables. So yeah, what did you learn today? If you want to help us make all of this stuff way, way better and just really give us a hand in terms of figuring out what parts of these like workshops are great, what parts we can like improve on, head on over and take the quiz. Everybody who gets a 100 on that quiz will nab yourself some stickers. So I highly recommend that you head on over and get yourself in on that. I'm going to drop the link for that right on down below. And yeah, learning shouldn't stop when the workshop ends, because fundamentally this is like a massive area that like basically everyone who like hasn't done this stuff before, there's so much that you can learn. It is really awesome. And I highly recommend that you get stuck into this one. If you head on over and check your email, you should get access to these workshop slides, a whole bunch of extra practice problems, deeper dives into a whole bunch of various key topics, instructions if you aren't already an MLH community member on how to get into the community, and a whole ton of other awesome opportunities from us over at MLH. So thank you all very, very much for joining me. It has been an absolutely marvelous time running you all through this workshop. If there happens to be any other bits that you would like me to update you on or cover, then feel free to let me know. Otherwise, feel free to run back through this workshop a little later. It should be available on VOD on pretty much all of the MLH streaming platforms. And if it is not, then most definitely pop a ping over and let us know, and we will be good to go. So yeah, if you head on over, once we're done with all of that, make sure to tune in tomorrow at 2 p.m. UK time. And I think it's 9 a.m. New York time, like 6:30 India time, because we are going to be 3D modeling a blahage for your desk. We're going to be 3D modeling a few other things as well, but we're also going to be 3D modeling a blahage for your desk, which is going to be a really awesome time. So yeah, highly suggest that you'll rock up for that one, and I will see you then. Happy hacking.